The oldest tools ever found are older than the human species itself. Not older than civilization, not older than language, older than the entire branch of the family tree we belong to. Something was making sharp cutting stones 3.3 million years ago, and whatever that something was, it technically wasn't human. Which means the story of how tool making started is a lot weirder than anyone expected. And scientists kept getting it wrong for most of the last century. For most of the 1900s, scientists had a clean, simple theory. Tool making required a big brain. A big brain meant Homo, our genus, our lineage. So the first tools had to belong to early humans. It was one of the things that made us special. That theory held up for decades. Then, in 2015, a team working in Kenya pulled stones out of the ground at a site called Lomekwi 3. They dated them, 3.3 million years old. The problem? The earliest known members of the Homo lineage didn't appear until well after that. These tools predated our direct ancestors entirely. The creature most likely responsible was something called Australopithecus, or possibly a related species called Kenyanthropus. Neither had anything close to a modern human brain. Their hands were somewhere between ape and human. They walked upright mostly, but they were picking up rocks, striking them against other rocks, and producing sharp edges on purpose. That's tool making. And it rewrote the entire definition of what kind of mind was capable of it. Here's what makes this even stranger, though. Making a sharp stone tool isn't obvious. It's actually really hard. And the way early humans eventually figured out how to do it properly and then taught each other points to something researchers didn't expect to find this far back in time. The Lomekwian tools, named after the site, are rough and large by later standards. Big cobblestones struck to produce a working edge. They don't look impressive in photos. But around 2.6 million years ago, something changes. The Oldowan tradition begins, now belonging more clearly to early Homo. And here's the thing about Oldowan tools that researchers find genuinely remarkable. You can't make one by accident. You have to know which rocks work. Flint, obsidian, quartzite, useful. Granite, useless. You have to strike at the correct angle, with the correct force, at exactly the right point on the stone's surface. Strike it wrong, and you get nothing. Strike it right, and you get an edge sharper than a surgical scalpel. Early Homo had to learn this somewhere, which means someone had to teach them, which means knowledge was being passed between individuals, possibly across generations, long before anyone was using anything resembling language. And the proof of what they were doing with those tools? Researchers found animal bones with cut marks running directly underneath trampling marks from scavengers, meaning early human ancestors got to the carcass first. They weren't scavenging leftovers. They were competing for food. Strategically, repeatedly, across thousands of miles of Africa, for hundreds of thousands of years. But then around 1.7 million years ago, something happens that even modern experts find difficult. The tools get dramatically harder to make, and one species started producing them, in exactly the same design, for longer than our entire species has existed. This is Homo erectus, and their signature object is called the hand axe. Teardrop-shaped, worked symmetrically on both faces, pointed tip. Thin cutting edge running all the way around the outside. Researchers today, experienced professionals who work stone for a living, describe making a proper hand axe as genuinely difficult. You have to hold the finished shape in your head before you start, then work backward through dozens of individual strikes to approach it. It's abstract spatial reasoning, the kind scientists until recently assumed was exclusive to modern humans. Homo erectus made these tools for 1.5 million years. Same basic design, same standard of quality, across South Africa, southern England, and the Indian subcontinent. 3 continents, dozens of environments, 1.5 million years. No other animal has ever done anything remotely comparable. And here's the detail that genuinely unsettles researchers. At Oldowan Gorge in Tanzania, the evidence shows Homo habilis carrying specific types of stone at least 14 kilometers from where those rocks naturally existed, to sites where usable rock wasn't available locally. That's not wandering, that's planning ahead, solving a problem before the problem exists. So by this point, you've got creatures, not technically human yet, making precision tools, teaching each other techniques, competing strategically for food, and planning for future needs across long distances. Which raises the question, when did this stop being survival and start being something else entirely? By 300,000 years ago, the toolkits of early Homo sapiens include something unexpected. Stone points, scrapers, blades, tools shaped from bone, and ochre, a red mineral ground into pigment. There's no practical survival reason to grind red mineral into powder, which means by 300,000 years ago, these weren't purely practical objects anymore. Something else was starting to happen. The line between a tool and an expression of identity, between function and meaning, was already blurring. Long before anyone picked up a brush. Long before anyone carved a figure from stone. It started with someone picking up a rock and striking it against another rock in just the right way, 3.3 million years ago, in Kenya. And we still don't know exactly who did it. The next time you pick up a knife, or use a key, or pop open a SIM tray with a coin without even thinking about it, that instinct is 3.3 million years old. Whatever first felt it wasn't even human yet.